the country will not be. The Prime Minister was probably thinking that because heritage oil production is falling, the country really can't benefit from high oil prices because the new kid on the block is not producing enough to have the country benefit. So the OWTU, recognizing that heritage oil production continues to fall, in spite of the boast that heritage is successful, where the country would benefit. And we would have sent that proposal what great benefit to the country. To date, we have had no response from him, except to say in some WhatsApp message to the director of the Patriotic Services, one of the directors that would have sent that proposal to him, blow me down with a feather. That's your Minister of Finance response to a serious proposal to increase at a time when it's needed crude oil production in this country at no cost to the government, no cost to heritage. But because of the wicked and spiteful and the point must be made that when government blunder, when governments are corrupt, when governments are without vision, and their policies lack development for the people, it is the people that suffer. So that all of those things that they are doing, all of the blunders that they are making, it comes right back on the shoulders of the people. When they do not, or they fail to negotiate properly with the multinationals, it is the people that suffer as a result of that. So that we have BP charging us more for our gas. And as a result of that, you have the closure of major industries on the Point Lisas estate, gas users. Less forex, the country suffers as a result of that. You have the debacle with Train 1. Can't function, no gas. And as a result of that, less foreign exchange, less revenue to the country. The people suffers as a result of that. And so, as they continue to blunder, the people suffer, people are not making the connection, and they are allowed to go to ride free. They are allowed to ride off into the sunset. They are allowed to do what they want, tell you what they want, speak to you with arrogance and so on, as if you have no say in this country. I'm saying this morning that the government had a choice. Minister Imboud had a choice. And the choice is between treating fairly with your citizens, protecting those who are vulnerable, caring for the small man, the man in the streets, caring for the majority of us, the 99%, making sure that you protect the standard of living, or increase fuel costs 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, and 4 times. Don't care about the loss of jobs, the thousands and thousands of workers that went home, the increased food costs, the increased cost of rent, failed policies with the multinationals and so on, the closure of the steel industry, closure of Petrotrin, the shutting down of manufacturing, the fall in oil and gas production. They had a choice. On the one hand, those things, and on the other hand, to put good policies in place that we would benefit in this country. They choose to disregard the people in this country, and this time the people wake up. And I want to ask another question. And citizens of this country can answer it in your mind, or you can answer it openly. But we know the answer to that. And the question is, since this Dr. Rowley PNM took governance in 2015 to present, did your standard of living remain the same? That's another question. Did your standard of living improve? That's another question. Did your standard of living deteriorated and continue to get worse? And we all know the answer to that. The only people under this government standard of living would have improved is the 1% and their friends. Those who got the big contracts and continue to get the big contracts in Paria, the $250 million in contract, somebody's son, whether Richard's son or Ken's son or somebody's son, those who profited from an arrangement of settlement of $100 million in fake oil issue, and 10 years guarantee contract, those who benefited from that, and all of their friends who continue to get contracts. But listen to this, while poor people suffer, the banks, the Ansa Macals, and they continue to declare huge profits in the same Trinidad and Tobago. So certain people will not be affected or impacted by this increase. But the majority of citizens are going to be seriously impacted by this 4th increase in fuel costs. I think enough is enough. We have had too much from these people who tell you that they care, but at the same time they care only about themselves, their friends, and so on. To Trinidad and Tobago, one for Dr. Rowley and the PNM, and another one for the suffering masses. And it is time the suffering masses stand up in defense of their own selves. OWTU will continue to provide a voice. We will continue to provide the leadership. We will continue to stand up as it is our mandate to do, as it is our mission to do, and our responsibility and our duty. But it's time that citizens stand with the OWTU and all like-minded organizations and tell them where to get off, and tell them that we must benefit from the fruits of our land. We do not have to be suffering Trinidad and Tobago the way in which these people are making you suffer. And so, stay tuned, because this is not going to rest easy. This fuel cost that we warned you about, we warned you that they were coming with it. We warn you that the model that they have is not sustainable. We warn you that with the shutting down of Petrotrin, they will come at you again, because they will have no choice. The oil production is falling. They hardly have any US to purchase fuel. They refuse to allow competent people, the Patriotic Energy and Technology Service, Technology and Services Limited, to increase the production, and our other sister company to run the refinery, to produce fuel so that the country can benefit at a reduced cost instead of an increased cost. And that is where we are with this PNM government. Well, as I said, let's remind ourselves, the last time we checked, the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago belongs to the people of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and not the People's National Movement, and not Dr. Keith Rowley, and not Imbu. And we will stand firm, and we will stand up against and protest in many different forms against this most unjust installment, this most unjust action coming from a callous and uncaring government led by a prime minister who just don't care, and a minister of finance who could even care less. We will take the necessary action. All we ask is for those who will be impacted to stand with us as we take this action. We benefited in this country as a result of what our forefathers and our foreparents would have done. They stood up. They made sure that the resources of this land belongs in the hands of the people of this land. It is our responsibility to ensure that the people benefit from these resources at this point in time and into the future. Thank you very much. All right, so any questions?
Yes, hi, good morning, Mr. J. This calls people to support your call to action, call to protest. We've seen a number of organizations in the past couple of days, the MSJ, the PDP, also calling for similar action in the transport sector. Is it that you all are planning to do a kind of collaborative action? Do you think that's the best course of action at this point? Or give me an idea of what you all have in mind?
Well, I'm not called really. There are calls from many different quarters, and we appreciate that. And we support that, because it is the same call, and it is the same issue that is going to affect everybody. And if at some point all of those calls resonate and everybody come together, we certainly will be a part of that. It doesn't matter who. It doesn't matter what I dare say too, whether it's opposition or who calls, we don't mind. It is a call, an honest call, to protect the citizens against the vagaries of the increased cost of fuel, but against the uncaring hand of this callous and uncaring government. And so we are happy that everybody is responding to that call. And we welcome that. And if everybody come together in one arrangement to deal with this increased fuel cost, we also will welcome that.
Yeah? Are you all asking people to stand up ahead of the 19th or if it happens on the 19th, just after? Just give us an idea. So the
Well,
timeline
the
you're on.
19th is a significant date because that is what the school reopened. And how could you look at the reopening of school? All of these parents, single parents and otherwise, catching their aunt, uncle, and men in to send their children back to school. It's not now online schooling. It's uniform we're talking about. It's transportation costs. It's uniform costs. It's books and so on and other school items. All of those costs. And this man, he just comes out and said, Cabinet decide. Cabinet decide that they will increase fuel costs. The worst time for that is now, coming after a pandemic when so many people lose their jobs and so many others suffer as a result of those who lost their jobs. So that all of those parents who in the malls, look at all of those places that closed down. People are not now at work, but their children, to get an education, would do what? Have to travel to school and would have to meet those increased costs. One parent working, somebody looking for a day work here and a day work there, just trying to scramble to make ends meet. How do these people live? Does the government care about that? The minimum wage could hardly do anything at all, and well, it's less than minimum work to earn minimum wage in this country. And the PNM who say they care and that they make the right choice, this is what the population is getting for the choice that some people made. I didn't make that choice. I tell you that. I did not make that choice because we won the population against this uncaring People's National Movement under Dr. Rowley government. They just don't care. So look at that. He said when school reopens, the parents now have to fork out more money from where? Heaven knows where. And a lot of persons would have lost their homes and lost their, removed from their, evicted from their apartments and so on, because they lost their jobs because of this pandemic. If there was ever a worse time for this, is now. Now could never be a good time to raise the cost of fuel in this country. And we call on the Minister of Finance and Dr. Rowley to have a heart and to reverse this law and carry this across. Have a heart for him. Have a heart. And all of those persons, those PNM people who leading you down that track, it's the wrong road. They too will suffer as a result of that.
Just to be clear on something you said earlier on, is that the OWTU stance that despite the country's falling production of crude, if the refinery wasn't shut down, we would have been able to produce fuel at a cheaper rate for local consumption, and therefore there would have been no need to interfere with the fuel subsidy.
Well, you couldn't say it better than I said it. That is exactly, you got it right. And I want the rest of the media to get that right. I noticed on the last occasion when we dealt with Dr. Rowley's issue, telling the country that had we had the refinery, sort of a foolish type of spin on it, that they would have had to import crude, and therefore as a result of that, it would have been unprofitable. This country always imported crude. And I asked a specific newspaper, I noticed when we said that on that occasion, that particular newspaper would have regurgitated all that Dr. Rowley said and not carry what we said at that press conference. And I think certain people in this room know who that newspaper was. But anyway, the point is, what you said just a while ago, comrade, you got it absolutely correct. This country consumes some 30,000 barrels of fuel combined on a daily basis. And let's assume that you now have no imports at all. We have enough crude here to produce enough fuel for us here in this country at reduced costs, at a time when the country needs it, at a time when our people need the relief from the resources of our country. But the resources of our country is not used or not extracted to benefit the people of this country. It's extracted to benefit somebody else. And it is not even properly well extracted because their policies is not geared towards sustainable extraction of those resources and so on. So they have failed energy policies and so on. It's upside down. This government, there's no new announcement or no new announcement of any new job creation. So while the minister talks about increased fuel costs, did you hear him talk about increased minimum wage or adjustment on wages and so on? Did you hear him say that? He did not say that. He would not say that. Or did you hear him talk about increased job creation at the same time? Well, the cabinet would have examined the possibility and agreed that there will be thousands of jobs, many thousands of jobs created. That is not their focus. Their focus is to shut everything down and allow the banks to declare hundreds of millions of dollars in profits, and some are called 1%, and massive holdings to declare hundreds of millions of dollars in the face of suffering masses, as if, we don't care about you, we will extrapolate all of these profits while you suffer and so on, and you all will be scrambling. You know what? Our greatest problem lies in our inability to come together and realize who the enemy really is. And the greatest weapon ever designed is the weapon of division. So all of those persons who are preparing to call on the radio and so on and say that we are wrong, and when your phone card run out, and you have to go down the road, if you have to travel to buy a phone card, you have to pay more for that same phone card because you have to pay more to travel. Yeah? So all of you pay them cross-mouth, big-mouth, naughty people who call on the radio and talk a lot of foolishness, including the talk show hosts on there who defend this nonsense. You too and your family, your children, will be ashamed of you because you are putting and strapping on the backs of your children a burden that is not necessary only because you love the PNM. Well, in all my mother's children, I love myself, yes. And as citizens, we ought to love ourselves more than we love anything else. And we ought to love the development of this country. We ought to love our children. And we ought to love to do the right thing. And the right thing at this moment is not to remain silent, is to stand up and speak out against the most unjust measure that is unleashed on the population of Trinidad and Tobago. So we welcome everybody to come together and stop them. In America, the same places that they quote, in all of these jurisdictions, when fuel cost is raised, the citizens stand up and they speak with the most clarion call to their governments and tell them to stop. We want to tell Minister Inwood this morning and Dr. Rowley that the conversation we want to have is a conversation that will lead to the development of this country where people are safe and where people benefit from the resources of this land. So yes, if we had the refinery in operation, they would not have had to unleash this burden on the population that they are unleashing right now. And again, I want to remind all that approximately 3 weeks ago, we would have produced a comprehensive proposal to the Minister of Finance to increase crude oil production, starting with a 2,500 barrels per day, and over a 5-year period to ramp up to some 10,000 barrels per day by engaging idle and unproductive wells. Wells that are abandoned, wells that are not in use, not under any type of contractual or lease arrangement and so on. We did our homework. But they are so vindictive. Such a developmental proposal was set aside. But instead, Cabinet decided they're going to put pressure on the population. It's time the population respond. And I want to end by again going back over. Yeah? Yeah, that's good.
By 15%. I then realized that was not enough. I came back again in April and I raised it again by 15%. And I came back again just a few weeks ago and raised it by another 15%. They haven't reacted yet. So I might raise it by another 15% in April of next year.
Yeah. So with no measures to mitigate that increase, just cabinet announced. And cabinet, through him, should have had a proposal to increase crude oil production, thereby the country benefiting from the increased price of oil. No mention of that because that has been set aside. Because Dr. Rowley's vindictive government is only about Dr. Rowley's vindictive government. Let's remind the citizens, their business okay, their business fixed. All of them business fixed. And when you're in government for 5 years and 7 years, you fix your business even though when you are kicked out by the population, your business is fixed, even though when you're out of government. So they're fixing the business right now, while the population is made to bear that good. He increased it once, twice, 3 times, the population has not rioted, and he went to a 4th time. I just want to end right there. Thank you very much.